everybody, and happy Friday to you. Super excited to be here with you for another episode of The Breakthrough Show. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and today we are honored to welcome a truly remarkable guest. You may recognize her from having been on Project Joy Live fairly recently, where we were joying amongst other things. Our guest today is a distinguished healer and the visionary behind the KLEAR modality. That's KLEAR, and maybe we'll learn a little bit of that about that coming up. Her journey is a profound exploration of spiritual alignment, healing, and the magic that unfolds when we connect deeply in ourselves and the elements around us. In today's episode, Clear from the Past, our guest will take us through her path to discovering and developing the KLEAR modality and her current work in elemental healing. We'll explore how her innovative approach is helping individuals release past traumas and activate the good in their lives. So let's get ready to dive deep into the world of healing and transformation. And without further ado, let's welcome Jade Rehder to the show. Jade, I'm so excited to have you back on the Breakthrough Show Network today.
I am excited to be here joying with you, Jessica, and the audience.
I go back and listen to that episode anytime I need a little, if I'm not joyful enough, I go re-listen to that, and just, it's a moment. It was a whole vibe, that show.
It was a good time at 6 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah, it was awesome.
I know. And you get the gold star for that, my friend, because we don't have a lot of people that come on the show from the West Coast for that reason, because it's so early. So gold star for you, Jade.
Early mornings have been the thing since I was a child. So the vast majority of the time I'm up early and moving around. So.
I love it. I love it. Well, I would love for you to tell everybody, if they didn't get to see you on the show, where you're joining from, and maybe start out by sharing, when you hear that word breakthrough, which is what the show's all about, what kind of comes up for you about that word?
Well, we'll start with, I'm in the Pacific Northwest in Central Oregon on the coast in a town called Florence. So I'm in a small town that has a vortex of creativity. And seemingly it has me going through another level of breakthrough, Jessica, as so many of us are right now.
Yeah.
Breakthrough to me means acknowledging, pushing ourselves out of the chrysalis again. Anyone who thinks things are a one time, I smile. And I wish that for them, if that's true. For me, I have been through phoenix moments, chrysalis moments, I don't know, ostrich moments, head in the sand. I've done, we do so many things along the journey of life. Breakthrough for me means you can see where you were and how where you are is supporting where you feel and know is ideal for you to be. Sometimes they're like breaking the board at a cool event, right? I've broken quite a few boards in my life. There's sometimes like bushwhacking your way through dense jungle. So it just depends. And right now as a collective, see, this is where I'm focused right now, is noticing so many of us that are naturally sensitive and empathic. The highly intense level of collective will go with unwinding and transcending. That is happening with the amount of photon light that we'll go with being blessed to experience right now. Sometimes it feels like we've been ran over by something very large. We're down flat, and sometimes we're just totally and completely elated. Yet there's this collective, my view, and again, it's my view today. Tomorrow, my view might be different. Your own view. That's something, and allow it to evolve, because for me that's one of the most important things. You use the word healing in my introduction, and I want everyone to be aware from my view that self-healing is the only way people are healed. And it is a remembering of our wholeness. And the latest metaphor I have for how this works and why sometimes we work with other people, with knowing that we're like, wow, I need some support in this. And I've
Right.
got mentors and I've got healers and I've got coaches and I've got body workers and I got a lot of people in my life
Yeah.
too. For me, if I'm going to work with others, I need to stay tuned. Like if we were a race car, we'd have all
Mm.
making sure we were ready to go, right?
Yeah.
So, the newest visual that I've been inspired to share is like there's no there's no behind or ahead. There's just an expanded or a contracted state. And if we can
Mm.
see in judgment that it means something and we can go down the rabbit hole, meaning freaking making. Because I'll tell you
Yeah.
that one, that one right there had me stuck for a long time. In fact, I'm working through another level of meaning making I've made in my life
Mm.
that on one level feels like I'm stuck. Now I'm not fully stuck.
Yeah.
It's kind of like got one tire in the mud, spitting it up, and but the other tires aren't going. I'm dragging myself through the ditch at the edge.
Yeah.
Um, so this metaphor is if your awareness is at, say, a teacup, and you come in contact to somebody whose awareness is more of a great big serving platter,
Mm.
you get to remember that you also have a serving platter.
Mm.
So it isn't that the one person has something you don't. You're reminded you also have it, and you have access to the field expansion to
Mm.
allow you to remember your own serving platter. And this goes all the way out if we put liquid in these all the way out to the ocean, you know.
Yeah.
If I am a teacup and then a swimming pool and then the ocean, I wish it was 3 steps like that. That'd be so cool. But, I mean, when we get into a more expanded state, and we do this meditation, we do this in workshops together. We don't call them that anymore. I don't even know what we call them. I like to go have fun. So experiences is what I do with people. We
Yeah.
do experiencing. Yet we talked about clearing from the past.
Mm.
Okay. And Clear came about in 2015 when a friend called me and told me he figured out how to do what we were doing with energy
Mm.
without hands-on. And I said, "How do we do that?" And he gave me some instruction and told me to, in 4 days, to go do my ego.
Mm.
And ego in that construct is personality restrictions, as in programs, overlays, installed things from our DNA and
Yeah.
from our lineage, whatever. Like that's the kind of ego we're talking about,
Yeah.
the restriction. And so 40 minutes later, he said 4 days, 40 minutes. Like I don't follow direction very well. I did what he said and knocked myself out. So Clear
Mm.
has mellowed in, and we don't go after a whole ego at one time.
Yeah.
Not to say that I'm egoless, by the way, folks. I by no means would I have, yeah, have the ego to say I was egoless at this point in my life. Clear has unfolded. I don't even know what generation it is at this point.
Mm.
Um, it's a channeled energy that is co-created with those that I'm either working with one-on-one in a group or they're listening to a transmission
Yeah.
because we're doing it together. It's not
Mm.
being done to someone, and that's really important because if someone gives someone their power because they did it for them, there's a lot of things that the science world would say, that the spiritual world would say
Right.
about
Right.
that. Um, when we're with someone, doing it with them, which is a co-creation, people remember they have their power, their sovereignty, and their capacity to remember their own wholeness.
Right. Right. Yeah, I know that you and I have both No, I mean, we've both been tapped into community for as long as we've been doing this, but I feel like both of us have, when we talked when we were doing Project Joy, have come back to this space of community and understanding the importance of it, but also the role that it has in our lives, and maybe viewing it differently, like you said, and seeing, okay, like, how is this going to fit in for me now, and how can I use it to help the people that I'm trying to help in the work that I do as well. I want to go back really quickly before we go to break. About the analogy that you used before, when you were talking about breakthroughs and mentioned like caterpillar, in the chrysalis, and some of these other things. We often use nature, and we're going to talk about elementals coming up as well too. We often use nature as, a comparison of the cyclical nature of our own lives, and sometimes we'll look at the let's use the butterfly as an example. They go into the chrysalis and then they're the butterfly, and we kind of like, we see that as like the breakthrough, but we forget about the other parts of the journey, the caterpillar before that, and then what happens when it's a butterfly, and then ultimately the butterfly dies. So it's we forget about it. We see, okay, it's this one breakthrough, but there's all these little parts of the journey, these little breakthroughs along the way. And I think that that's one thing that a community has the ability to do for us, is to have us check in at those little moments that we might not see. We're waiting for that chrysalis moment, and a community is able to go, hey, you're doing good things as a caterpillar right now too, right?
And you're okay when you're the goo and the imaginal cells
Yeah.
too, which can be a really messy part of the next elevation. I mean, we often call this death and rebirth. We have so many different words we
Yeah.
give to this, yet I agree, from my experience, Jessica, that it's important that there's someone saying, hey, you're okay right now.
Yeah.
You're enough. One of my sign-offs says, you matter by being you, nothing to do, nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Like, just be you.
Yeah. Just be you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to dive more into the clear modality as well as elementals. We've got all kinds of stuff to cover today after the break. So don't go anywhere, because we are joying, and we have more joying happening after the break. We'll be back in just a moment.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and we're here today with the incredible Jade Rehder, who you guys may have seen when she was on Project Joy Live fairly recently, and super excited to have her back on the Breakthrough Show Network today. We were talking about butterflies, goo, and all the things before the break. And now I would love to dive in a little bit to Jade's story as well. Speaking of butterflies and goo and caterpillars and all of that, take us on a brief journey of how you came into the world of energy healing and transformation and all of that.
Oh, this is a good one. I ran a residential roofing company with my first husband. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
that has
17
everything
years.
to do with transformation.
Absolutely. Took it from a $600 investment to a multi-million-dollar company.
Wow.
And one day I'm running a 57-member leads group in Colorado, and a woman walks in and she says, "My name's Maggie Connor. I help people have positive changes. If you want positive changes, come see me." Well, when the meeting was done, I dove under the table because she ran out of business cards, because 57 people in a leads group is a lot. And she became my master trainer in neurolinguistics and timeline training and ancient Hawaiian Huna La'aukahea. She's my kumu. So I went on a 25-year now journey of self-realization on the path to self-actualization. And yeah, it was the very first thing that I worked on was my fear of heights. And I have found that the fear of heights shows up in very expansive beings, like people with a very expanded consciousness.
I suddenly feel better about I feel better
The
now.
very cool thing, you won't find this on my website, but the very cool thing is it's a single intervention. It's less than an hour. And the fear of heights, you still have a respect for them. I climbed a 24-foot extension ladder in the middle of a parking lot to a 2x12 to fly on a trapeze years later. So I can tell you, and that was a decade later, actually. But so my view, only my view, is when we come into form as human beings, right? We have to let go of some of the past of remembering being non-physical. One of my clients who woke up big time. I work with a lot of people who have spontaneous awakenings and thought we were all crazy until they woke up. They're like,
relatable.
Judge me. And I'm like, I'm not. You're going to make me laugh though. So he said to me, you have to be given forgetting juice. Because if we didn't forget who we were beyond our human, how would we human until we had our neural pathways at a point where they could expand and we could hold our psyches? I was like, forgetting juice. I'm making it clear for that.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah. I think there was something like that on Harry Potter, if I can remember correctly.
I'm sure there was. I mean, yes. I do love my sci-fi and my fantasy. You mentioned elementals. So what elemental healing that I had mentioned to you, Jessica, is working with the forces of creation. So fire, air, water, earth, ether. In Hawaiian, they're different words. They're ahi, vai, makani, honua, and io. And so this was already innate to me when I learned it in 99. It was like, because we can use crystals. Like my name Jade, I was given at birth in Fargo, North Dakota. Yeah, sure, you betcha, don't you know? I really was born up there. I really was. I've been gone since 1990. Yet I go home and then I start talking like I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the elementals out in nature, I love too. I don't, believe me, I can go out and play with those elementals too. Making shifts in our form and our emotional body. See, KLEAR came because in the way I use it. Now, the man who gave me the idea When I met him about 6 months prior, I've been clairaudient my whole life, so I hear voices. Always. I thought everyone did till I was 33. I believe everyone has the capacity to hear their expanded consciousness. It just isn't always how they receive it primary.
Right.
And my greater self was like, hey, he's going to give you something you can bring out into the world. And I'm like, why isn't he bringing it out into the world? And they were like, no, it's for you to do. So it's strange when it came to me and I went to him and I said, this is going to be a thing. And he's like, go for it. Like it wasn't for him to do, right?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't what he wanted to do. So clear or clearing, the clear method is a way that allows us to use our expanded consciousness kind of as scrubbing bubbles and change the state of what's there that restricts into our higher consciousness. So every time we do a clear, we enhance our divine self's vibration within us. Okay, so that's where we get into a state where we have more emotional regulation. When we can, so the past is always there somewhere in the construct of our energy bodies. Yet when we neutralize the charges, all of a sudden the future, we no longer bring that experience of charge from before into the moment. And that's where we free ourselves. Like that freedom. The emotions that I've worked on in myself since the early 90s, with others since the late 90s, it's a thing, especially for empathic people, because those emotional charges, like this morning, I did a big personal 2.5, 3 hour work session this morning on me because I had some space, something canceled. And I was like, I can do this before I go on the breakthrough show. Who knows what'll happen when I'm in a super I actually call it the emotional detox. I don't make any emotions bad or negative anymore. I do my best to change the language. I was taught they were negative. They have negative feelings when they're stored. Anger's a birthright. So is sadness, shame, guilt, fear. They're birthrights, yet when we store them, because we don't have time or the bandwidth, those are me. I'm like, I have the phone will ring and I'll look at it and be like, sometimes I have no bandwidth. If we have no space to be able to be in a communication, which is really communion, we're going into a state of connection, right? With something in
I love that.
Yeah. Like having been raised Catholic, to use the word communion in a different way has been a journey. Yet in clear, especially in the early forms, we talked, I was like, when you are in communion, in communication, right? Communion. We're communicating with our greater self. And that brings in more of the access points to our expansion.
When you talk about clear, like you think, okay, you hear the word clearing, you think CLEAR, to clear out, like to take away. But as you describe it, I picture it as more of like an upgrade or an expansion as opposed to a taking away. Because even when you talk about freedom as well, I think about, let's go back to, let's have a brief history lesson here. When folks came to the United States they were looking for freedom, and then it's a situation where the stuff that they left didn't actually go away, but I think about that, like it just changed. They changed perspective. They were in a new place. They were like, things just changed, but it still existed. So I like the thought of like clearing the way for something, but it doesn't mean it's not there, but we're just kind of like
state. So when we work with expanded consciousness, it's seventh dimensional energy and above. So
Mm,
if we'll use Matthias de Stefano's construct of the universe today. There are many of them. By the way, these are all constructs.
mm,
And I'm not making anyone's right or anyone's wrong. Matthias's works for me right now. A lot of them will tell you the seventh dimension of experience is transcendence.
mm,
So clear works in a transcendent way. If you no longer wanted this to be blue calcite, and your highest consciousness is diamond, this would then be diamond. It'd still be there, but we're changing its vibrational state. And this isn't a measure.
mm,
Ooh, all you science peeps, hear
mhm,
me. This isn't a megahertz measure. This is a state of beingness, a state of experience, often a state of emotion, and sometimes mind. There's a lot of confusion out there, Jessica.
mm.
People will tell you to raise your vibration. We're talking about raising the state of your emotional well-being,
Yeah.
raising the state, joying, happy, freeing, complete loving.
Mm,
You can feel that in your body. Well, that's changing the state of the emotional and experiential vibration. My body is still vibrating at very low measurements
mm.
in hertz, right? Like this is where a lot of confusion happens in the
Yeah.
spiritual world.
Yeah.
And if we can be clear that the science measurement of frequency and vibration, the movement of the waves, frequency, the measure of the movement of the speed, and the oscillation of the waves.
Mm. Yeah.
Even for me, the vernacular has been used for so long that I have to stop myself and restate
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. So we want to feel really good, right? Like most of us, and not
Right.
all of us. Some people like to feel a different way.
Oh,
And
100%.
in 2024, I get to let them do that, Jessica.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to let people be right where they are.
Yeah.
Boy, I got 5 plants in Pisces. If you know anything about the astrology construct overlay, I believe something, and then I want you to believe it with me. And at this point,
Yeah.
I believe you get to believe what you get to believe whenever you
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. I love that. I love that though. And you mentioned kind of like some we'll call them what are we going to call them? We'll call them misunderstandings in the spiritual community. That's the word I'm choosing right now.
Nice,
Um, so
nice.
that's what we'll choose. And I love how you describe both your spiritual journey and where you're at right now, in that this is your perspective, it's your view of things, it's what you're experiencing, and like you said, letting everybody kind of be where they are. But I think there is, for me, as we're looking at, I think when we first start out on this journey that we're on, we like dive headfirst in, and we believe all the things, and then as we sort of reflect, we're like, those two things don't really add up. We're kind of talking about two sides of I don't know what we're talking about anymore. And so it's very confusing, I think, for a lot of people. How do you, I guess what I want to ask is how do you sort of get yourself to that space where you're like good with where you're at, but you hear all of these other things, and that modality is not going to work, and this isn't going to work, and this is the right way and this is the wrong way, those black and white sort of things. How do you sort of quiet that? Because there's a lot of that in the spiritual community when you would think there wouldn't be.
Oh, yes. So I think it was 2001. And I come from northern Minnesota. My blood is mostly Germanic and Northern European and Scandinavian.
Mm,
And I was raised very right, wrong, good, bad, black, white. And I'm serious. I mean,
right.
I would be my way or the highway.
Mm,
Like once I made a decision, I believed that. And my belief was now law.
mm,
And in about 2001, I manifested someone who had been in another life or an alternate with me, and he challenged me constantly.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm really tired of this. This is getting, one of the things we did is agree to disagree a lot. Someone gave me that phrase that freed some of it. But I went, why do I need to be so hard edged? What if I go into the field of iridescent sparkles?
Mm.
So that's, but for me, between black and white is iridescent sparkles. Gray was too boring.
Yeah.
You like gray?
I'm
Like
adopting
in your
that now.
gray?
Thank you.
Yep. I wanted to go into iridescent sparkles. And
Mm.
that for me was the space of possibility.
Mm.
So forward 23 more years. And now in front of my head, right here, sits a box. It's got no top. It's got 4 sides and a bottom, and it has 4 question marks around the edges.
Mm.
And so when something comes into conflict with what I've believed, thought was true, experienced, because again, we can go through the same thing and have a completely different experience than the person next to us.
Right.
And, it can be a completely different experience for us the next time. What just came to my mind was, how when sometimes you land and the plane bounces, sometimes you feel, and then sometimes you're like, whee!
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster. So it's the same thing. The plane's bouncing on the runway,
Yeah.
and we have a different experience of it in our own life. So the question box sits here, and I throw those conflicts in there and ask,
Mm.
hey, show me right now what's true for me. I put so many things in the question box. It's
Yeah.
like the mystery, the experiential mystery is there, the curiosity. We could say I was throwing it up to my high self, my higher power. We got lots of things we can say. For me,
Mm.
it's a box. And I may actually have one made. I may actually make it, get a cool box, cut the top off, put the question marks on, make it cool. But this etheric box works really good. And then I also ask my universal self and the universe as a whole for things. I put those also in the box because I
Mm.
don't know how they're going to happen. So that box for me as a very strong personality is very effective.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
effective.
I love that though. And let's kind of think about this from a perspective of leadership, of being a teacher of sorts or healer. Like, how do you, when you go to work with clients and you have these things that have worked really well for you, how do you teach those things then while still holding on to this maybe a completely different experience for them? Because that part I think is tough for a lot of people, because we do, if we're teaching something, we want to go into it as this is going to be great for you. This is going to work out really well. And then we're like, oh, that didn't go very well if it did. So how do you sort of balance the two of like, I'm teaching this is a great thing, but also at the same time, knowing that they might have a completely different experience?
Yeah. One of the main tenets I was taught very early on, probably in 99, was the most flexible person in the room rules the system. So
Mm.
if something's not working for someone, I'll call it out. I'll be like, well, the way of making this shift for you seems to be different than the way I've done it before. And then because I have a really big toolbox, which a
Mhm.
lot of us do,
Yeah.
I'm able to then do something in a different way. So clear isn't everyone's answer. I do a lot of body-centered work. That's back to the elemental holing or healing work,
Mm.
which can be really fast, really fast. So clear is like energy healing it, and some people think it's a guided meditation. I'm like, yeah, I understand how you think that.
Yeah.
How about you experience it and then tell me if it's a guided meditation?
Yeah.
And the ability to shift, like I don't shift in the middle of a clear. I might add something. They might need something a little bit different. We may need to check in and scan their body and notice that what's shifting. I guess flexibility is an answer that I can give you, Jessica. Like
Mm.
the ability to be flexible, which takes you out of the need to be right or the fear of doing it wrong. These are up in the collective right now
Mm.
because they're floating through my world. Like, what if I do it wrong?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, who said it was wrong?
Mm.
Like harm to none. We're going in with the intention of support, and contribution is my word. Lived
Yeah.
a lot of years in the world of servitude, turned that one over,
Yeah.
and went into the energy of contribution. Because then we're
Yeah.
both contributing. I'm not
Right.
doing it for anyone. I'm contributing. I had
Mhm.
a universal handy woman belt, and it was full of tools.
Yeah.
And I carried that sucker, and it hurt because I
Yeah.
wanted to fix everything. Guess what? There's no one saying it's broken.
Mm.
Some of us go through Phoenix experiences, and after Phoenix experiences where we burn it all up however we do. I went through a wildfire. That brought me to transcending the physical body stored trauma. I'd done a lot
Mm.
of trauma work, but I hadn't gotten all the physical stores out, even with some types of somatic work. I
Yeah.
needed something different. And
Yeah.
again, I had to be flexible and not do it the way I thought, and not think it was going to be done the way actually anyone thought. My guidance brought me how I needed to do that.
Mm.
Yet, you know, being with someone and having their guidance get louder for them, one of my favorite things in the
Mm.
whole world, whether it's visual, auditory, knowing, feeling. Yeah,
Yeah.
tasting and smelling can help, but they aren't usually the loud guidance for most of us. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't appreciate a couple times when the tasting and smelling has been the loudest one. I don't where I had a talk with I had a talk. I was like, we're not doing this anymore because it's a lot. It's a lot.
Well,
Um
when it happens to me, it means I'm probably not paying attention, and they need to somehow, the greater self needs to boost in the guidance
yeah.
team, whatever you're calling that
Yeah.
unseen force of consciousness that connects with you.
Mm, yeah. You know what I wanted to talk about as you mentioned the fire that you experienced, and I also while I didn't go through a fire, I did go through something where a lot of my physical things were taken from me, and a lot of times I feel like with experiences similar to that, that's like a spiritual brick to the head, like oh, you weren't listening all of the times that we said, and then bam, there. And I enjoy bricks apparently because I'm a very stubborn person. So how do you I know that sometimes when we're going through it, when we're experiencing the brick, it's not a fun time. Are you able to look back at those brick moments and be like, okay, I could see how
I
we
had
did
two
that.
really huge, well, I actually had
Yeah.
three brick moments in this life, really big ones.
Mm,
One slowed me down. It slowed me down. I was running at breakneck speed.
mm,
It slowed me down, literally broke my back, so I didn't really have a choice, but
yeah.
I chose to slow at some level after
Mm,
that. The next had me looking at some of my behavior, and how I co-create in relationship, and
mm,
what also how other people's emotional bodies influenced my emotional body. It was an unworthiness thing that was so amplified I didn't understand until the whole experience was over, and I was like, "Oh my. If I have if I have a big serving bowl of unworthiness, that person has." And again, it's a contrast. It isn't a
mm,
comparison. There's
yeah.
a contrast. There's a
Yeah.
difference. They have a swimming pool, and I've been in that swimming pool for this long, and no wonder. So again, back to that collective influence
Mm,
in those of us that have yet to enhance our energy bodies and enhance our light bodies to the point where we're more sovereign. And people will disagree with me,
yeah.
yet I see had somebody laugh at me on a call the other day. We're in soup together. The collective, Jungian psychology call it the collective unconscious.
Mm,
Yet we're in a soup together. Now, who you play with, that's what's in your soup, right? Like,
yeah.
who you're hanging out with, what you're watching, that's in the close soup, but the broth, that's all of us. And that broth effect,
Yeah.
it's going to be a thing. It's going to be like, we want bone broth. We'd like chicken broth. I'd like veggie broth. Um, I just ran into a plant-based broth in my cabinet. I was like, what was I making with plant-based broth? Interesting.
You borrowed it from my cabinet.
There you go. I was like, I don't know what I was making with that. So it's this piece of being in it. We talk about this matrix,
Mm,
right? Like I'm
yeah.
in the matrix, yet I'm not of the matrix. Well,
Mm,
okay. And I'm in the collective. And can I be out of the major effect of the collective?
mm,
For me, that's getting to emotional regulation, emotional mastery, energy hygiene, having a lot of tools in your toolbox.
mm,
When I walk beside people, and that's my favorite thing to do. My walk besides are
yeah.
absolutely my favorite thing. Um, because when you're in, we'll just go with a spin. It's a nice word for sometimes what happens, right? When you're in a
Yeah.
spin, if you have someone who can say, "Hey, we can turn the washer off," you go, "Huh?" Like, by asking questions or by reminding people what to do. I mean, one of the fastest ways out of a mental emotional spin is to ground, and one of the easiest ways to ground is to blow out all the air in your lungs and hold your breath.
Mm,
It's an earth breath. It's Honua breath in Hawaiian, but
yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I before we go to break, I want to ask you about using or leaning into elemental healing and things of that nature. When I think a lot of times when we hear that, we think about, the elements, and people might be going, well, do I have to get like crystals and then go take a bath and then like lean into the very physical things that we think of when we think of the elements? You talk to us about what elemental healing with you looks like.
sure. Elemental healing with me looks like sometimes as little as 1 minute to shift energy
Mm,
in our physical from the physical um, with an emotional component as the fixator, which it often is. So, in a 30-minute elemental healing experience, we can often get through 2 to 4 different things that are creating restriction in life and let them unwind. It's it's experiential. It's
mm,
so hard to explain. I remember working with someone, this is based in ancient Hawaiian
mm,
Hunalauakahea, and, he timed it, and it was 32 seconds. Um, yeah, I know. Um, it really depends on the person and what it is, and if it's the cause or if what we're talking about, what they brought up was more of a symptom, and then we go deeper. If
mm,
so we ask for root cause of it always. So I'm always been let's pull at the deepest piece. Elemental healing for me is something that is non-invasive, and it is a way that the mind can go, wow, that changed. Because we find we find where it's stored in the physical
yeah.
and how it's stored, what the sensation is,
Yeah.
so that it allows for the awareness at a cognitive level and experiential sensory level to know something has shifted. You see that you have the capacity to move energy. I've trained a number of elemental healing practitioners, and it's one of the most powerful modalities because there doesn't have to be a story.
Mm,
Okay, so it's really beyond the words.
yeah.
There's an agreement and a co-creation, yet it's like sometimes it can be this is like this, or sometimes it can be I'm tired of feeling like this all the time.
Mm,
Okay, how do you want to feel? Like what do you want in its place? So it's a, again, we're not leaving a hole in the energy field.
Yeah.
You're choosing. So it's a co-creation again. It isn't something done to someone, it's something done with someone.
Yeah.
And for me, the elements have been something that are powerful at helping us help ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. We're going to take one more quick break and we're going to come back and I've got a great question for Jade coming up. We're going to learn about her membership among other things and how you can work with her, and we'll be right back after the break. Don't go anywhere.
I shall stand for love even with a broken soul, even with a heavy heart. I shall stand for love, for the world is wounded, not just my little piece of land, where I am mostly safe, where I am mostly well, but our world, everywhere, every day. I shall stand for love, because we need more light, not more death, not more power, not more bombs. I shall stand for love, so that our children are safe, so that our friends are sheltered, so that our borders are open. I shall stand for love, even with a broken soul, even with a heavy heart.
Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. Thank you for standing for love with us today. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and we're here with the incredible Jade Rehder, who is, listen, we have been butterflies today. We have been playing out I feel like we have frolicked through the woods for the last 45 minutes. There's a stream, there's little fish. I don't know. Jade's energy always just feels yummy. So if you want to just feel yummy for the day, you just come back and watch a show with Jade on it. That's what we'll do. I'm so glad to have had the opportunity to sit and chat today about all the work you're doing in the world. And I wondered if you could give us an example of something that someone could work on, like something that you've worked on with someone in an elemental healing session.
That's a great question. The fear of speaking up sometimes, like the fear of talking to someone that you need to talk to. Recently, they were tired of feeling like they were in a funk. There was just this funk thing going on, and they had no conscious cause. So we moved the funk energy out. So it's so vast. It can be super, super specific. Like I can't talk to my mom, or it can be, I can't show up on video. I'm afraid, or I can't speak. I mean, it's because it's working at the level of how we create our physical selves. It's very, very widely available. One of the wildest stories is I was doing a group session, and a woman had been to the acupuncturist, the massage therapist, the craniosacral therapist, was 8 months pregnant. And on the group elemental healing session, the pain left. That hadn't left. So it's about the only way I work on physical pain, if that makes sense. So I'm usually the emotion set, but again, the emotions are often what are holding that misalignment of energy that physically is making a feedback loop called pain in our bodies.
Right.
If it's biomechanical, that's biomechanical. That's different. But yeah, if it's emotionally seated pain, elemental healing is a very, very effective way of shifting things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you differentiated between like kind of the different types of pain as well, because I think too, so like I had a back injury when I was 16 and I had a surgery, and then the surgery like caused some other issues. And so that's there. Like I don't think anybody is saying, I think sometimes there's this misconception of, we'll talk about misunderstandings in the spiritual world, that if you have a titanium plate in your body, that's just going to like disappear with energy healing, that's not what we're talking about here. But you can, I think that what you're doing is so important to not have to have a story, to not have to have a like, but you can manage that pain a little bit. And sometimes, like for me, it's not even there. Like it's just like, that's not to say that I still don't have that foot long scar on my back, but the pain is not there. So it's magical what you can do. And I, going back to the story part too, I think it's so important, because I think sometimes people feel like when they get into energy healing that they have to have that story, that they have to like know why, so then they don't go and or work on it.
Yeah, I mean, and if we can get beyond the story, if we're working with what is, because who knows how many things contributed to that,
Oh
whatever
yeah.
it is, you know,
Yeah.
or the stack of behavior, the way we make meaning can enhance things. Like with your back, I had a broken back. The doctors told me something would happen in the future, and I said no to that. Yet I noticed that I believed what they said
No,
was
thank you.
happening in the moment. In the moment, that there's a whole nother show, Jessica,
Yeah.
about what we do related to the calendar. It's a whole show. It's a wild topic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when we can get where we are here now and go beyond the story, it allows us to have more freedom. I mean, my favorite word is freedoming.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is. It really
And
is.
speaking of freedoming360.com is a place that you can go to visit with Jade, amongst other places. But I want to talk about that for just a minute, because your membership community is fairly new, and I would love for you to
Oh,
share.
it's super new, Jessica. We haven't really even worked to fill it yet. It is squeaky clean new. Freedoming 360 is really my answer to how do I work with you in a really reasonable, cost-effective way.
Mm,
So Freedoming 360 has two different levels, one called Clearing the Way, where you self-guide everything, and we have suggestions, but you have a big library of clears and activations. It's funny because people call my activation clears. They call everything clear. Clear element. I'm
all
like,
clear.
okay, everything's a clear. And then there's the adventuring level where I show up live 2 times a month and we do bigger experiences. Those start in June. So we're there. This is here. Freedom Inc. also has a level where everyone can be a member. It's our playground level. So at freedoming360.com, it'll ask you for your email. You go into the level that has our DEW, which is DEW, Daily Energy Wellness, and has my top 2 ways. That's fun. My top 2 ways of getting your energy in a state to show up in your day, the drain cleansing, and then self-sourcing. And I know you've experienced those. And then there's also a clear for stored anxiety, which a lot of us are
Sign
doing.
up.
And it's free. This is the free level. And then there's communication and stuff. We're literally just starting to spin the wheel and get the membership out there. I'm excited to be contributing in that way, that people can actually, do their own thing. The younger generation. So I'm an early Gen Xer, but millennials and Zs and beyond, they want to do it themselves, and I totally get it. Yet you're co-creating all of this, and then you can make up your own thing. I had one woman go, "You figured out how to fix a libido." I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah. You clear stress and you clear exhaustion and your libido's back. Well, that's what worked for her, right? Like she was like, oh my gosh, this is how you do it, Jane.
Yeah.
So you guys get to make your own. I kind of see them as recipes, right? I think we call them, I don't think we call them playlists. I'm not sure. I like to call them journeys because I love to move really fast. Yet with a membership, people can move at their own pace.
Yeah.
And they're actually championed to move a little slower than their mind would like them to. They need to follow the body, to follow the energy, because it's energy work. I mean, when we do energy work, we got to drink our water, take our electrolytes, get our rest, do the things.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I put the link down in the show notes for everybody, as well as in the comments if you're joining us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. So make sure you go check that out, and get in on that. Because look, you can go in and you can try out the anxiety one, and then decide, like, I know you're going to be like, I need more of that. And then you've heard it. Your libido is going to be back. The titanium plate in your back will disappear. There's all kinds of magical things that are going to happen, which
Well,
will
it's
be
funny
great.
because you wanted to ask me where the KLEAR came from.
Yes.
My guidance team said it was K, but K is high magic, right? So it's acknowledging that we are going beyond here. That's where the K comes from for me.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, I was going to ask you to end out if it stands for anything, if it's an acronym or if it's.
No, it was literally what I heard. Clear. And and the whole consciousness of broad and stream that I have had my whole life comes through. I'm always cleaning and purifying. We make sure everything's clean and pure. Yet it's kind of a broadband that I thought everyone had a very chatty broadband with them all the time. And I believe
they don't.
Well, exactly. I believe everyone has the capacity. It's just maybe it hasn't been the experience yet. And that's just know it's there for you. Yours is.
Love it. I love it. Well, Jade, thank you so much for being here with us today. If I know they can go to the link if there's anything that you'd like to leave us with today. And also, people can work with you one-on-one as well, right? Not just so tell everybody anything you want to leave us with, and then also any other places that they can find you.
Sure. One-on-one, you find me at my website, which is jaderehder.com. You find me on, let's see, I just started on TikTok. It's Awakening Together 11. Freedoming 360 but again, they all have my name on Insta. For the Xers and older, I'm over on Facebook some. I mean, reach out, contact me. Jessica's got everything in the notes for you. I do intros with people. I will have a conversation and make sure our connection is a good connection. You don't have to dive right in. There were years where I was taught to stay away from just having a conversation. And like I mentioned to Jessica before the show, I've come back around to doing a lot more elemental healing, which is super cost effective, and it's fast and it's fun. And also, doing the connection, because sometimes that's actually where the magic is getting to connect with people. So I love connecting with groups. I love connecting with people. I love connecting with other people who do work with others. I'm in another one of those wee states of expansion, which is always fun. So yeah, I'm out there. You'll find me. My name's interesting. It's true.
I love it. I love it. And I will speak on a personal note about the importance of connection, because Jade and I met many years ago, like many years ago now. And so you never know when you meet someone, even if it's not necessarily something that you do right in the moment, or I think we hit it off right away in the moment, but then we both kind of had life going on and have kind of circled back around to this. So it's so important. I get mad when people say, like, don't waste your time on conversations and connection, because you never know at what point you could come back around to that. And I'm so glad that we connected all those years ago so that we could come back around to this moment today. Thank you so much, Jade, for being here today. I appreciate you.
Oh, mahalo nui loa to you, Jessica, to your audience, to all that helps all of us here having the best life we can. Let's thrive together.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jade. I want to thank all of you for being here wherever you are in the world today. I'm always blown away by how these episodes happen, and that circling back around, which seems to, I guess it's just going to be a theme today. We're just going to go with that. As we close today's episode, I am so moved by Jade's journey and the transformative power of her work. Jade, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and the incredible story of KLEAR modality with us. us your dedication to helping others release their past and embrace their future filled with that yummy, and we're going to call it yummy energy. Every time Jade comes on, I get away from this positive and negative words that I'm just going to go with yummy. That's what we're going to go with right now. And so I'm so blown away by this, and by embracing tools like the KLEAR modality, we can navigate our healing journeys with clarity and purpose, leading to profound personal transformation. For those that want to dive deeper into Jade's healing practices, I encourage you to explore her work. Go join at least the base level of Freedoming 360 and connect with her online community there. And don't forget to join us for the next episode of The Breakthrough Show, The Performance of Your Life, featuring the multi-talented and my friend, Kathy Ellis. We're going to dive into her incredible journey through music and personal growth. Thanks again, Jade, for being here. Thanks all of you for being here around the world. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I want to remind you to make every day a great day for a breakthrough. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.